welcome to Skillings. I'm Angus Scott in London. Today we unravel just how vast is Russia's mining stake in Africa. The former Soviet power is currently notorious for its aggressive military campaign in Ukraine. Amidst the conflict, its intricate relationship with Africa has emerged into the limelight, as a number of states in the continent have publicly allied themselves with Russia. Russia's economic interests in Africa, particularly the mining sector, have been growing steadily over the years, to the utter dismay of the West. Russian miners currently have their own sizable investments in metal, energy and mineral concessions in Africa. At least 7 nations have shaken hands with the Russian miners, who operate through private companies, military contractors and various oligarchical interests. History reveals these ties date back to the days of the USSR, but increasing sanctions are poised to disrupt Russia's activities with no effect to African states. Our global team of reporters have more.
Mother Russia has several miners spread across some 8 African countries, including Sudan, Guinea, the Central African Republic, Mozambique, Angola, Zimbabwe, South Africa and Namibia. The majority of these countries are authoritarian states, but with weak leaderships. The Kremlin made military intervention to support their cause and allegedly provide aid to these unstable nations. Countries like South Africa and Namibia are amongst the few rare democratic republics that partner with Russian miners. Russian interests hold a 50% stake in Nukumeti nickel mine in South Africa and a 49% stake ownership in the 4th largest manganese mine in the same country. Alrosa, the world's largest diamond mining company, has increased its stake in the continent, expanding operations in Angola and Zimbabwe. In Namibia, Russia's Uranium One group owns 8 uranium exploration leases. However, this rosy friendship has had its fair share of disputes, with tensions often arising in war-ravaged states. These usually tend not to end well, and bloodshed is inevitable. Domestic mining in Africa is expected to increase regardless of these partnerships. The extractives and hydrocarbon sector is booming due to global shortages of commodities, and Africa is looking to make a killing.
Downside risks are expected for African miners as funding from Russia will significantly decrease with the war at hand. Russia and Africa have strengthened their relations with meetings held with the aim of mutual benefits for both parties. While the world has condemned Russia's actions, many African states sat on the fence, avoiding a potential conflict of interests. Russia is cutting its supply to the West, which is driving commodity prices higher. Increased demand will attract investment in the continent, opening a profit windfall for African miners.
The repercussions from the crisis in Eastern Europe has been felt all over the world. Russia understands Africa is resource-rich and hosts most of the world's major minerals. Supply chain constraints are respected, but increased global demand will undoubtedly cause a rally in the mining markets. The Kremlin has strategically positioned itself in the power play on the African continent. It is leveraging the narrative of historic and ongoing Western colonialism to maintain its alliances on the continent and dismiss critics of the war as a dystopian fallacy and even an extension of the same Western colonialism towards its own domestic affairs. But Africa's future is in its own hands, and against all odds, a fruitful future is anticipated in its biggest industry.
Africa has long been one of the most bountiful continents on the planet. Its ground rich with natural resources feeding the global growth engine. Throughout the last couple of centuries, most developed economies have courted each African nation in turn to secure those resources in a competition that's often spilt over into blood. Even in the last half-century alone, several African nations became the battleground for proxy wars between West and East. With international pressure building against Russia and a new wave of sanctions clearly biting, Russia is now under increasing need to secure further alliances on the continent to secure its own commodity supply. But it's finding it a very crowded marketplace as the other Eastern superpower China also has its eye on the same prize. I'm Angus Scott for Skillings Mining Review in London. We'll see you next time.